Funny is that we are in the AI era, no? So that means we have already started using AI like ChatGPT, Copilot, and other tools like this. But funny is that at the moment, if you take it as an example, you can still exist without AI. If I would cut all the AI at this moment, I don't think I will feel like a very big difference. We are not there yet, but you cannot without Java. If you cut Java now, you will feel, I promise you will feel a difference. I promise there will be things that will not work and you will feel that they are not working.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Archill podcast. Today I'm joined with Laur Spilca, one of the most amazing Java enthusiasts in the community, public speaker and lecturer, author of famous books Spring Security in Action, Troubleshooting Java, and my absolute personal favorite, Spring Start Here. Laur is widely famous for his YouTube channel, where he shares his enormous experience in Java, Spring technologies, and software engineering in general. Having Java background myself, I've learned a lot from Laur's resources. Therefore, I'm super excited about this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about this YouTube channel. And now, here it is, my conversation with Laur Spilca. Enjoy. Why should people still choose Java? Can
That's a
you
very
share
good
your thoughts on
question.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, very good question, actually. So, Java is a mature language. I think it's one of the most important characteristics of the language. I know a lot of people already say it's old, or maybe it's not emergent enough, maybe it's verbose. Why didn't they actually try to make it earlier, less verbose? Why are they just introducing some feature just now? Well, the point is that the philosophy is a little bit different, no? So sometimes with applications, you are not necessarily looking for the the cut of the edge. You are looking for a mature language that took from what the other languages what is essential when they have already proved to be essential. So they are not testing with introducing new capabilities until you figure out that that capability is really a must for the language. And that's why, if you will take Java as an example, you will see that a lot of the things that even that have been recently introduced, and you could say, hey, this is in Scala for a long time already, this is in Kotlin for a
Yeah.
long time, this is in Python for, this is in another any other language for a long time already. But in the end, uh, all the things that are in Kotlin for a long time already, or Scala, or whatever other language, were they all necessary? Or we figured out throughout time that some of them are not used. So Java tries to take what's really essential, so that when we use the language, we use it as a mature language, not as a geeky language. Java, I'm not sure if it ever was the geeky language. Maybe it was at some point in its early years, but now it's definitely not a geeky language. You use Java to implement professional applications, strong, robust applications, and you need a language that gives you the capabilities you know are essential, and not necessarily capabilities that are vanilla, or I don't know, some
Yeah.
sugar you don't necessarily need. So why would people still use Java? Java is in a continuous growth. I'm surprised whenever people ask me, isn't Java dying? I've heard Java is dying. Should I still learn Java? Well, I'm not sure whoever took the decision that Java is dying, because if you take a look on the statistics, you will only see that there are more and more systems, virtual machines, and developers using Java as a language and as a platform. And there is one more thing I always tell everyone, is that Java, when I say Java, I never think about only the language. I'm always thinking about the JVM. Java is the JVM for me. So that includes the ton of other languages that in the end will transform into bytecode after compilation. So Kotlin is Java, Scala is Java, for example. They do transform into bytecode. They do use a Java virtual machine to execute their applications. Java will not die anytime soon, and at the moment, as statistics show, it only becomes more and more used throughout the whole world.
Yeah. And I have this, came across a very funny video recently. There is this kind of, some person says that we turn off all Java programs in the world. and then in a couple seconds apocalypse starts because a lot of software is running on
Yeah,
Java.
exactly,
So
exactly. I think I
yeah,
know what you mean. I saw that. I saw
yeah,
that movie on YouTube as well. It was with Java
yeah,
Apocalypse or something like that. Whatever
yeah,
happens.
yeah,
I don't think there is at the moment a world without Java. So funny is that we are in the AI era, no? So that means we have already started using AI like ChatGPT, Copilot, and other tools like this. But funny is that at the moment, if you take it as an example, you can still exist without AI. If I would cut all the AI at this moment, I don't think I will feel like a very big difference. We are not there yet, but you cannot without
yeah,
Java. If you cut Java now,
yeah.
you will feel. I promise you will feel a difference. I promise there will be things that will not work, and you will feel that they are not working.
Yeah, exactly. And just to continue this path about Java, you mentioned that Java kind of adopted all these different features which were very kind of needed, and we had like burning need of those features. And can we talk a bit about the evolution of Java? Because like there are like 21 or some like, versions of Java, and
Yeah.
there were some like main updates, right? And can we maybe like kind of walk through these updates and evolution of Java, how it began and where we got now?
Well, I'm not sure if you want me to start with the evolution of Java since I started working with Java, because I think it was Java 4 at the time, and I don't like I'm old enough, I don't remember.
Yeah,
But actually it was yesterday when I found a picture of me somewhere in France. I was holding a magazine because at that time magazines were still on paper. No, today I don't think you find that anymore. And it was announcing the release of Java 7 at that time. So it's quite. Um, I have no. I actually have no idea. 15, 16 years ago.
yeah,
I don't
15,
know.
16, I guess,
A
2010
lot
or
of
something. Yeah,
times. So I was surprised. I looked differently, definitely, and Java was definitely different also. So yeah, I started with Java 4, I think. So I've seen the addition of annotations. I think that if you ask a Java developer now, like a newer Java developer, that if they can imagine Java without annotations, I think they will tell you
yeah,
no. I don't think there is anything like Java without annotations. No, because we do use them regardless of the framework that you use. Yeah, actually, in the majority of the cases, you tend to like use more annotations than actual code. I don't know, like actual control structures or declaring variables, or I don't know. So then it was like Java 7 was fine, was a big release, but then was Java 8. I think that made the biggest impact. So in the whole Java 4 to Java 8, in my as far as I remember, I think Java 8 made the biggest impact. No, it's when Lambda expressions appeared, is then when the Streams API appeared, is then when the optional class appeared, and many others. I can't even
yeah,
recall all of them now. So many others. In Java 7, I think I just remember the try catch with resources
yeah,
as being a very good feature. But Java 8 was definitely big. And then after Java 8, and you know that it was quite a long time Java 8 was popular, and up to 2019, I think it was, when they have changed the way the versions are released. Java 8 was a thing, you know. And then because yeah, in the past like 4 years or so, a lot of versions appeared. Why? Because the release strategy has been changed to a 6 month release. So starting with Java 9, Java 10 appeared after 6 months in March, and then in October another one, and then in March another one, and then in October, and so on and so forth. So every 6 months you have a new version. That's why the last version at the moment is Java 21, and only part of these versions are so-called long-term supported. And there is one more big difference. Until Java 8, you had only one distribution. Now anyone is able to create their own distribution as long as they fulfill some rules. But mainly what that means is that now you have different possibilities of vendors to choose from when you choose the support for your Java distribution. That's also a very large change
can you also
from.
tell what you mean by Java distribution, just very
So
shortly?
you don't only have a Java provided and supported by Oracle. Now you have different vendors that like Azul, like AWS, like they do have their own distributions. They do have their own development on the Java, and they do offer the support under a specific own license. So they can you can like find specific cases where you have to pay for the support, but you have also different other distributions for which you don't necessarily have to pay for the support maybe, but you have to wait for something, or I don't know.
And are these
So
distributions like different in some sense, or they're kind of
no,
same? Or
no, because they have to align. So they do have to align. What they are different in is who is supporting them, and of course the licensing and the pricing in case there is any pricing. So with that, that doesn't mean, of course, that Java became the language for which you have to pay. But now you have different options, and in some cases you can choose enterprise facilities where you might need to pay money, but you receive something in exchange.
yeah, and just a follow-up question. So when you say support of Java, do you mean that whenever somebody discovers some core bug in
Security
Java,
vulnerability, a
yeah,
CV, but something that's not working.
that should be
Things
fixed, right?
happen, yeah, because yeah, things happen like in software in general. You see CVs are there, even in the largest libraries we've used, or largest frameworks we've used throughout the time. And someone needs to solve them as quick as possible. So if you are a large organization, of course, and the CV that affects you is discovered, then you certainly need to consider that quickly and
Yeah.
yeah, solve it.
Okay, perfect. And can we now speak about one of like very big updates, recent updates and changes in Java, where this new type of concurrency, not new type of concurrency, but kind of this idea of virtual threads was introduced.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, like the traditional way Java handled concurrency and how this new edition lets us do this new way?
Sure. So, Java, the virtual threads or fibers, have been introduced with Project Loom in Java 21, which is quite recent, as you say, release, and they are a great addition because, well, we now have two different kind of threads. The one is the old known kind of threads, which we call a platform thread, and the new one, the virtual thread. The way, let's say, the way it worked, and which caused inefficiency in Java applications with concurrency, was that Java was actually always borrowing threads from the operating system, which we also call kernel threads. So any Java thread is just a wrapper over a kernel thread, meaning that whenever you have any blocking operation, that thread is not released. You keep it there in your application so that it can continue further when you need to continue after the lock is released. And in many applications, locks are very often. There's a common thing, like imagine any access to a database is a locking action. Any access to the file system is a locking action. Any call to a remote service via HTTP or any other protocol is a blocking action. So if you count on that, and if you profile your application that has these kinds of operations, you will see that your application is actually more, surprisingly, more idle than working, because there are many more blocking operations than in-memory calculations. So with that, the problem is the following: if you have more threads, you keep them, you borrow them from the operating system, but you keep them doing nothing for a long time. Well, while this works fine, because yeah, it works, you can do that, it's a loss of processing time. Couldn't you just replace the thread you don't need and reborrow it when you need it, such that someone else can use it meanwhile? That's the big idea of it. And this way, allowing the processing to be used to take the most out of your processing. So that's the whole idea, and that's where things came. And of course, initially, before thinking about even changing something in the JVM and the way JVM handles the threads, developers thought about how to do that themselves, no? And that's how reactive applications work. If you think about that, it's a way to solve kind of a similar problem, to treat things as tasks so that you can release tasks from a thread when they are idle and put them back on a thread when they can continue working. But reactive applications, for who tried implementing them, they have this different way of thinking, which makes also them difficult to understand, or at least as far as my experience tells me, my students always found reactive programming difficult. At some point you get used to it, you know it, but it doesn't have a very smooth learning curve, at least,
Especially in Java, like
especially in
with
Java,
this
maybe. Yeah,
reactive web flags, for example, is a little bit like
yeah,
complex to understand. Yeah.
exactly. So now that doesn't mean that with virtual threads you will not have reactive applications anymore. Definitely, nothing is a silver bullet in software development. You can't say that there is a solution that's best for all, but definitely in many cases, like for example in web applications, virtual threads might help in an easier way improving the idleness of the threads working within your application. And I wouldn't be surprised to see many or most of the developers choosing this in spite of reactiveness for these kinds of applications. For example, it's a great, why wasn't there from the very beginning, again from the same philosophy that the language uses, and we discussed this at the beginning of our talk today. So Java is a mature language, and to be honest, using platform threads, which basically is still there, no, why is that still there? Why didn't we replace platform threads with virtual threads? Because now they seem they are better, no? But no, they aren't better. There are situations where platform threads are still better than virtual threads, where, for example, where you don't have too many blocking operations. Remember that a virtual thread releases the platform thread and then reborrows it, but at the same time, this operation takes time as well. So in the end, if you try to use virtual threads where you don't need it, meaning where you don't have situations for which releasing and reborrowing the thread makes sense, then you over engineer your application and you make it less performant. So that actually demonstrates that platform threads are still needed, and they are still the base of concurrency in the end in Java.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioned this project Loom, right? And
Yes,
it started as a separate open source project, right? Which then
yes.
kind of joined Java. And can you tell a bit about this open source kind of, which is absolutely fascinating to me, that some people just started some side project, and I think same was with Lombok, right? And it kind of like this Loom kind of got inside Java, and yeah, that's really fascinating, right?
Well, it's open source, no, so you can decide to, if you have a great idea, you can decide to implement your library or framework. And usually, if it comes with something which is valuable, maybe if it's something that doesn't exist usually, then you can expect that that will at some point be used by a large part of the community. Projects such as Amber, Loom, Valhalla, and so on, which are part of the Java development, they are somehow supported, however, by Oracle. But there are examples also for frameworks that haven't been supported by Oracle from the very beginning or by any other organization. No, I'm just saying Oracle for the sake of whoever now has Java as a language, but it can be not supported by any organization. It can be one developer starting with implementing it, and you have a good example with the Prime Faces stack. No, that was probably still is. I'm sure JSF is now no longer as much as it has been in the like 10 years ago, but Prime Faces has been a very is an essential part of Java EE, and Prime Faces implemented by Optimus Prime, no, had basically caught the entire universe of what JSF was. I don't remember at some point there was a developer using JSF to not use it with prime faces. So there was basically there was rich faces and prime faces, and at some point prime faces was 90 something percent of the usage of JSF. So you if you as a developer have a great idea and the time to implement it, definitely, because you need the time to implement it, or
Yeah, of
a group
course.
of friends that give you the time to implement it or whatever, then you can start with it, and then you might expect at some point it will become a used tool in the ecosystem.
Yeah. And initially, like you mentioned, that Java is not just a language, right? And now I want to talk about this. One of the major things with Java is it's Java community. I mean,
Yeah.
probably one of the biggest programming language communities out there, if the
Yeah.
most, if not the biggest. So, can you tell us what do we mean by Java community, and what is it? What does happen like around it currently?
One of my main pillars when choosing a technology is the community. What a community means, it means how many people use that specific technology and how much active are they in helping each other and implementing new things. For me as an architect or a consultant has always been, again, a, let's say, main point of deciding whether to use or not a technology. And I'm not talking only about Java. Whenever I had to choose for using a specific technology, from a programming language to a library or framework, I did decide that also based on how many people are active within the usage and the development of that specific something. If you take Java as an example, it's a large community. It's a very large one. It's so many developers using and contributing to Java that if you have a problem, like, basically it's almost improbable to have a problem before others already had it. That's
Yeah,
I don't know if it ever happened to me, like to discover an issue and
yeah,
others without others not to have it before. And even if you would be in that unlucky situation, it's still very probable that if you post it somewhere, there will be 1,000 other developers trying to reproduce it and solve it. So that's a very big advantage because you are not alone. That's one of the most important advantages. You have an issue, someone is there to help you with. There is somewhere a Stack Overflow thread, a YouTube channel, a LinkedIn post, a Twitter thread, something that will solve your issue. No, and you can say that about almost all the frameworks which are Java related, and of course about the language itself as well.
yeah. And I think we kind of partially talked about it, but can we now very kind of briefly outline what kind of apps is Java the best choice? I mean, obviously we can build everything in Java,
Yeah.
but some things might be more efficient to be built in Java and some maybe less efficient. So, what are the kind of apps which Java should be the go-to choice?
Today the majority of the applications that that I have seen being developed and used with Java are cloud deployed applications. So that include all kinds of cloud deployment through virtual machines, containers, or Lambda functions. But it's mainly the backend, the big and powerful backends of large systems, which behind the scenes deal with your data and deal with data and events for like sometimes millions of users. Yeah, definitely. As you say, you can still use Java for desktop applications. There are applications now implemented in IntelliJ, for example. No, are you using it? Yes, we are
Yeah, of
all
course.
probably using it, but there are not that many, no. And so I'm talking in terms of percentages now. Is yes, you can implement desktop apps. Probably today the majority of the apps we are using are, however, web applications. And then you have all kinds of possibilities when discussing about web applications. You can have server-side driven web applications with frameworks such as Vaadin, for example, or you can have a situation where you implement your client using React or Angular or something else, and it's simply a client. Can you implement mobile applications? Yes, probably. Today we discuss about Android in general. So, but in most cases there is Kotlin now. Of course, you can still count it as Java behind the scenes, no, if you
Yeah.
want to put it like that. But as a language, I doubt it's now used in many Android apps. It has been like probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, and then it progressively went through Kotlin, because honestly, in Android's case, to not be linked to a specific Java version and not have a specific like branching from a certain Java version, it's a bigger advantage. So Kotlin offers a better advantage than Java for Android development. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's mostly it as far as my experience tells me.
Yeah. So now I think we can move like one layer up and speak about frameworks. So can
Okay,
you
this is my favorite.
define? Yeah, can you define the word? I mean, yeah, we can see which is your favorite framework for sure. But can you define first the word framework and what do we mean by frameworks in general?
Well, a framework in general, whether is or not software related, it's something that helps you build upon it something. So the purpose of a framework is to simplify your building process. In case of software, it's simplifying the building process of an application. It comes with the let's say the components that you can plug in out of the box, and then you can customize as desired for your application. Because as most of the developers find out through experience, is that a large part of the things that we are doing in applications are similar regardless of the business that they solve. So is it a medical related application, or is it I don't know, car sharing app, or is any kind of business you choose? uh, the business is definitely different. So the things happening with the data behind the scenes, the way they are processed is different. But security needs to happen in both, performance needs to happen in both, transactions needs to happen in both, logging and auditing and observability needs to happen in both. And there are many things that need to happen in any application regardless of the business they implement. So instead of imagine if frameworks didn't exist, and some of you maybe you don't have to imagine, because you maybe have lived the era when frameworks didn't exist, but the majority of the developers now probably can't imagine, or they need to imagine because they haven't seen that. Is you have to write the transactionability yourself, you have to write the security yourself, you have to write why authentication is the same. OAuth 2 is a specification. You don't have to always re-implement it and re-implement it and re-implement it. Why would you have to always re-implement the same thing that does exactly the same thing? So a framework gives you these capabilities out of the box. And of course, a very important characteristic of a good framework, it allows you to customize them in the way you want.
Yeah, great. And now let me ask this another question. So, which is the best Java framework, and why do you think it's Spring?
Sorry, which is the
Best
best? The
Java
best. Okay.
framework. Yeah.
No, no, I don't want to put Spring as being the best Java framework. I'm joking. I love Spring. I worked a lot with Spring. I consider myself an expert in Spring through the years of experience I have with many projects as a developer, architect, and consultant. I don't want to say about any framework that is better than another, even if, of course, you always have one with which you feel more comfortable. It
Yeah, for
might
sure.
only be because of your experience. But there are so many great frameworks out there, some of them older, some of them less old, like, for example, Quarkus, Micronaut, Microprofile, any other Jakarta E implementation. So the choice of a framework is not like Spring is the best, I put it in my software, that's it. When as an architect you choose a specific framework, you choose it as I was telling you also a little bit earlier, considering many factors. One of the factors is the community, another factor is the cost, another factor may be the people you have. If you
Yeah.
have people in your team and 90% of your people are experienced with using Quarkus, it makes no sense to ask them change just because,
Yeah.
I don't know, you could implement it a little bit differently. But so always it's what it brings me, what each framework or technology brings me, and according to a certain situation, which is the best compromise. There will always be a compromise. Like, it's never perfection. In like, I'm choosing framework, it gives me perfection. Like, I'm choosing Spring, it gives me perfection. No, Spring will give me something, Quarkus will give me something, Micronaut might give me something, and then I say, for this case, definitely this is, or that is the one that brings the best compromise, meaning the best out of it, and things that I don't need are, let's say, in a fewer number.
Yeah, totally agree. And we're lucky enough in Java to have like these different frameworks. And I'm not like that experienced yet, just like 4 or 5 years experience so far. But I also already had some kind of hands-on coding on different frameworks. So uh, maybe just to switch a little bit to Spring and talk a little bit more about it. So I think like just like Java, it's not only code and it's not only like this single Spring or Spring Boot. Like it's the whole community and like a lot of stuff there happening, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
different projects, a lot of books were written, including yours. So a lot of stuff happened there. So can you tell a little bit more about Spring and this whole idea about behind it?
Um, I think at the moment I'm not mistaken if I say that Spring is the most used. I'm not sure if it's the best. Probably there isn't something as the best because it
Yeah,
depends on the
sure.
case, as I said. But the most used, I think it is, and it has, of course, a very very large community. So number of people using it and contributing to it is so large that writing books about it, trust me, I'm experienced with that, is difficult. It's difficult because you write something and tomorrow you figured out that something changed and you have to change in your book as well. And it
Yeah.
happened to me a couple of times. It even happened now, like today, I got a message that something is not working on my latest release, and I just released it, and it's something like, oh man, you have to understand, it's not my fault. I mean, at the time I wrote it in the book, it was that way. People have to adapt and try to, of course, use what they read, but then figure out when things have changed, because that's the way it is. But that's a good thing. No, it's a good thing because it's always evolving with velocity that allows you to always get the best out of the ideas from many professionals that gather together at conferences. They have particular groups and so on, and they have these ideas, and then they put them in place, then they implement them. And the fact that this happens with a good velocity is a great thing, because if you have also a good approach throughout the implementation and the delivery of your applications, and you are always into upgrading and being notified about the new upgrades, you will always get the best out of everything that is out there.
Yeah, and just a follow up question. So, in such cases, you just in paperbacks, you just include it in newer releases, right? These updates. That's the only way to handle them.
Yeah, only new releases. So what I do, like, sometimes if it's something small, I can put it in the errata. Just tell the people, hey, this thing here is not using query parameters anymore. Now it's using from, for example, uh, if it's small. If it's something large, like it was between, like, Spring Security, the authorization server implementation between Spring Security, the way it was in my first edition of Spring Security in action, and the way it is now, a totally different framework. Then you can't put that in the errata. You need a new book release for that, which is difficult because it costs a lot of money
Yeah.
and it costs a lot of time from the author. So it's unfortunately not something that you can always do. So it's impossible not to have deprecations
Yeah.
in a book. That's how it is. But I still consider that books are very important way of learning, and I continue to keep my opinion on that. And I would always treat a book with trust, because it's a place where an author didn't only put things the way they work at a certain moment in time, but they also put their experience. And reading a book, you don't only read about how some specific framework works, you also read about the experience someone really had with that specific framework.
Yeah, great. And now let me tell a very short story. So about after like 2 years of working in Java, I just switched some tech stack to JavaScript, and then I got back to Java, and I was having an interview in Java, and I needed to refresh my skills, things like that. I already had some experience with Spring, but I didn't know the foundations and basics, and it's at that time I came up with your book, which is like, I'm not joking. It's one of my favorite programming books out there.
Thank you. We'll
It's
start
called
here, I guess, you mean, no?
Spring Start Here. And like every time before that, I was reading different books, like this In Action series, some other languages or frameworks. Every time I lacked this, every time I had the feeling that there must be an easier book before I start reading this book. And that's when I discovered Spring Start Here, and it happens to be exactly kind of the pre-book before you enter like some more complex technical books about Spring. And now I want to talk about that one. So, how did you came up with that idea? Because there are lots of books about Spring, right? A lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that was actually the point. Exactly what you said was the point. Because I've been also teaching at the university, and I taught many students. I think if you count all of them, it's over 10,000 students that went through my classrooms. And there was always this problem: how to teach Spring. Where do I find some material like put in place? You don't have to take an article there on the internet and then take another article and found them. But to be something for someone who's zero on the framework itself. And there wasn't at the time something like that, where as far as I could research, I didn't find a book that would start you from the real zero of Spring.
yeah,
There were many books on Spring, but you see, in many cases, somehow the publishers force you as an author to write not necessarily for a beginner, but to an intermediate plus level. I think I don't agree with that. Honestly, I don't agree with that. Maybe it's commercial related. I don't want to debate,
yeah,
but as far as I it concerns me, I don't think it encourages enough students to read books, which should be the case. Because if you shouldn't only end up reading books after you have experience. No, you should learn that reading books give you a chance of learning faster things from the very beginning. So Spring Start Here was a book that I suggested with exactly the choice of teaching people how to use Spring from zero when they don't know even what Spring is. Maybe they haven't even touched the framework up to that point.
exactly,
Maybe it's a
exactly, yeah,
first year student that only learned the basics of Java. They've learned how to write some ifs, fors, whiles, the main method, implement some basic algorithms, and now they want to figure out how business applications really work. But if you take a book that presumes that you already know which are the basic annotations and stuff like that, you will never understand how Spring works, no, because you have gaps. So my point was filling that gaps for students who didn't touch Spring yet, and teach them from the very beginning what dependency injection is with Spring, what a bean is, what the context is, how you put beans in the context. So very from the very beginning. Okay, that's the point. And then also the second part of the book goes a bit further and tells you, okay, this was some theory, but now you put this in practice in web applications, and this is Spring Boot, and this is, and I don't go into detail with Spring Boot. Okay, I
yeah,
only have a chapter or two on Spring Boot. It's not the purpose of the book. I'm however telling the readers what to continue with. I'm telling you, hey, you can now continue with Spring Security, with Spring in Action, for example, from Craig Walls, or with Spring Boot Up and Running from Mark Heckler, and so on and so forth. So, if you want more details, the purpose of this book is not to make you an expert. Never will be. No one will ever be able to make you an expert in one book, but it's to give you the needed start so that you can kick off and further read stuff that is more advanced.
exactly. I totally agree, and that was the case for me. That I started with this kind of advanced books in the beginning, and after like a year because I still worked on Spring. Okay, I learned how to use it, but I didn't know the foundations, and that's why then I filled those gaps with this book. So thanks once again for that. And now I want to ask about the writing process of the book, because you are already kind of experienced in that. You have published a couple of books. So how does that happen? How much time it takes? What is the working process of writing a book? I'm really curious.
So the writing process of writing a book, first of all, it is fun, but it is difficult. When people who will listen to us, when any of you ever think about I'm gonna start writing a book, please do expect it to be very difficult. So if there's anyone telling you something else than that, then they have never wrote a book. It's impossible to not consider. I mean, it takes a lot of time, and it takes out of your free time, first of all. And you have to be very careful how you manage your time, because maybe you have family, maybe you have friends, and I hope you do have
Yeah,
family and friends. And I hope you will not be tempted to completely leave them aside and only work on the book.
yeah, of course.
So most likely you do already work like 8 9 hours a day during the week, and then you have some evenings. Trust me, during the evening, in most cases it was impossible for me to write because I'm already tired, and writing is an activity that needs a lot of um, active thinking. So I'm now it's late here. I'm already tired. I wouldn't be able to write a book at the moment. I promise you. Maybe there are evenings where I was able to write something, but it won't be all the evenings. And then you will have the weekends. But of course, you cannot spend the weekends. And at least as far as for me was the case, if I try to do that activity more than 3 hours, it doesn't work anymore. So
Yeah,
for me, after 3 hours, I was totally exhausted. I couldn't work on that. So that's why, first of all, that's why it takes over a year usually to write a good book. A book 400, 500 pages, less than 1 year if you want to make it properly. It's for me very, very difficult to get it. Then of course maybe the author part is less than 1 year, but then you have to have the copy editing part and all the put in page reviews and stuff like that. Now, to get on writing a book, normally I think you can go with an idea to any publishing house, or of course publish it by yourself if you want. Publishing by yourself makes sense if people already know who you are. If they don't know who you are, I'm not sure who will buy your book, because there are many books on
yeah,
different subjects there, and it's very unlikely that you will find a subject that is so motivating that people will definitely search for your book if you are not a known author already. So yeah, probably it makes sense for Vlad Mihalcha to write their own book without a publisher. Probably it makes sense for
yeah,
Josh Long to do that because they are already known by the whole community. So you don't have to ask who Josh Long is. But not for Laur, for example, who was probably not known by almost anyone at that time. Well, I was actually already delivering presentations. I was actually when I was when Manning came to me to ask me to write a book, because that's I was trying to tell you also you can apply, but it's rather better if they are coming to you, because
okay,
I'm not sure if you apply. I've never tried. If you apply, if they really come back to you, or I think that they are actually looking for representative people in the community, and they don't
yeah,
really accept any kind of proposal. But yeah, when they came to me, for example, they came to me after a talk I had at O'Reilly Software Architecture in New York. So it's not that I was not really known, but I was not known at all at that time.
yeah,
So I was still someone in the community, or at that time when I started writing my first book. And then of course I had some discussions with a few people from them before starting. I had to create a very good proposal, and then that proposal has been sent to many other authors and people they know, like 10 or 15. And only when that proposal has been accepted by the majority, I we started the process of writing. So I've been assignated with a couple of people, a development editor and a technical editor, and we started working on that. And that was only the development phase. Well, once you finish the development, then you have the production phase where you have the copy editing and the reviews. So yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of work. Uh, but in the end, and something more. If you expect to get rich out of it, then stop now.
Yeah.
These kinds of books is not for you to get rich. If you think that we will put money on your red Ferrari, then
Yeah.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. It won't happen. So you won't buy an yacht with the things. Actually, I'm not even sure how much I've earned. I know that the majority of my earnings from the books I have donated to different educational causes. I'm investing a lot in educational causes because as far as my belief is, it's the only way in which in the future we will get rid of wars and hunger and stuff like that. So I don't see any other escape. I think if all of us would invest now in education and educate people, that's where the peace will come out. That's where the hunger will disappear. That's where everything, every like diseases and so on will disappear. It's and I can understand that on short term investing in, like, for example, I don't know, finding cure for cancer might be good, but on a long term it's still education. If you have more people educated, you have more people finding cure for cancer in the future. For me it's a long term objective that I'm following, and that's where I'm donating most of the things that I'm earning. And so whatever. Unfortunately, I wasn't even able to donate a lot because I didn't earn a lot, no. So yeah, I would have been glad to be able to donate. I know, like you see on the at the TV, like with Leonardo
Yeah.
DiCaprio, or I don't know who, Taylor Swift donating like a million euros,
Millions.
but
Yeah.
nah, fortunately not my case. I don't have that much money.
Yeah, but let
And
me
you
let
will have
yeah.
either, not from the books, no.
Yeah.
Maybe you should
Yeah.
start singing or go to acting or something, but not from the books.
But let me kind of frame this like this, that you're kind of actually donating millions of worth, like knowledge and resources you are giving out, like really, really. So that's kind of worth of like millions. The books people read,
I hope so. Yeah,
I'm the living example. I have consumed a lot of your resources, and they really ticked things in my head, because there are lots of trash resources right out there. Internet is full of silly
yeah.
tutorials and books, and
Old, simply
yeah,
old, maybe
yeah,
old,
maybe outdated. Yeah,
unmaintained, and so on. Yeah. Uh, Now it's the thing I want to do is I want to help people as far as I can, and there are some ways in which you can help. One of them is trying to donate money. Fine enough, it won't work. Like you have an amount that you can donate. You can like do that infinitely because you don't have an infinite money, even if you are, I don't know, Elon Musk or anyway. It's what, and then you ask yourself, what else can I do? And okay, let's try just to share some knowledge. No, I have a YouTube channel. Okay, no, you don't have money to buy my books. No problem. I cannot give you my books for free. Definitely, it's not only my work there. If you open a book on the first day, you'll see 10 people have worked on that. It's not only what the name that you see on the cover, but and that's why I cannot simply just share it with you. But I can do some other things. Like I can create my own content, which is free, and my YouTube content is free. And yes, people might think, hey, aren't you actually also getting money from YouTube? And the point is, yes, I'm getting, but it's something like at the moment less than $100 per month what I'm getting from
yeah,
YouTube.
that's yeah.
Trust me, I don't do that for the money, and those are anyway going to be donated as well. So it's not it's only for sharing. So I try to create a lot of content because I know people watching my YouTube channel, they are interested in the content. People sometimes ask me, why don't you actually create some edited videos? Because they always seen that I'm only live streaming, And when you live stream, it's not even far from being perfect. No, because you live stream, you make mistakes. Definitely, everyone makes mistakes. You maybe don't have the content just cleared and have only that condensed content that you'd like. And there are sometimes people commenting, oh, "This is bullshit. It's only 90%. It's him talking about stuff, and then 10%." Yeah, that's what you get. But the point is that I wouldn't be able to edit it. I wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
have the time. So if I want to the only way I found, if I want to share my knowledge, is doing exactly what I do in the classroom.
yeah.
I'm just clicking on the live button and I'm speaking for 1 hour. And I plan for myself a couple of hours a week where I do that. And that's the best I can do. But I'm pretty sure that even this way, it really helped thousands. I saw that I have 20,000 plus now subscribers. So I'm pretty sure at least 20,000 people have been helped by my YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure there's many more because not all of the people who uses it subscribe, which is normal, is natural. But I'm this way. I'm pretty sure thousands of people have been hopefully helped by my YouTube channels, and I'm going to continue to do that because it's the way I can help. So you see, I'm trying to find ways in which I can help. Writing sometimes blogs, talking at conferences of certain kinds, uh, creating the YouTube channel and the content on the YouTube channel. That's other ways in which I can try to help others with what I know.
And again, a small remark from me. So first of all, I will link Laur's YouTube channel in the description, so people just subscribe on it. It's pure gold. And just want to mention that just kind of similar experiences with your book. So I took a couple of courses, paid courses on Udemy on Spring back then. And I remember my friend messaged me once that, hey, haven't you heard about this guy on YouTube having playlist on Spring? Oh man, just drop it to me. And when I discovered your Spring playlist, and by the way, it's my favorite. I'm biased a little bit, but it's my favorite content on your YouTube channel. So literally, you have the best course on Spring, included with those other paid ones. Uh, I may be biased, but it literally explains everything in very simple words. And the thing that you said that you don't edit it and you make mistakes live during coding, and then kind of it really feels more natural and genuine. So yeah, I really love this style. Keep doing that, and
Thank you.
don't think about edits and
Thank you
those
very
fancy
much.
stuff. And let me ask I asked this book writing process about that. And you kind of already described how this YouTube video content creation is happening, but do you have some kind of a list, or how do you come up with new video ideas? So, how do you do that?
It's part of things I know I have to do, part of people telling me, hey, you can do this or that. So I get the feedback from subscribers. Unfortunately, I have so much feedback that I know I will not be able to do it all. Um, but for example, like when I started the new playlist on JPA last year, it was mostly because I knew the old one wasn't recorded properly, and I wanted to have one with better sound and that covers better the subject this way. There were some parts of it that were very important, but they were not. I was at the very beginning, and I didn't have an equipment and stuff like that. When I started to recreate the Spring Security playlist, it's because the old one really got old. So the authorization server and the WoW 2 part was definitely changed completely. So I had to recreate it. I started a new one on the algorithms because people requested it. So I started to think about, hey, what can I put in there? And I already have a few episodes on that with intermediate and simple algorithms for the beginning. And then I know people also ask for cloud and stuff like that, and I have a plan in the future to do more on like microservices and architectures, different architectures and deployments with Spring and Spring Boot, for example.
Yeah, and maybe last but not least, so we've talked about lots of stuff, what you do, and so this is more like a, can I call it a side hustle? You as doing this education stuff, so you as an educator. And what's your primary thing you do? So, do you work somewhere, and what do you do there? Can you tell us a
Yes,
bit
I
about
do. I
that
do
as well?
actually work at a company. I have also my own business, very very small, meaning that from time to time I do. I'm discussing with certain large organizations, and I either do consulting projects short term or simply training for companies. But the primary thing I'm doing is working with this company and Dava, where I'm a principal consultant. So again, what I'm doing is basically the only thing I know. I know the
Yeah,
best is I'm involved with consulting software projects. So mainly it can be from different activities, from leadership, from technical leadership to architecting, to even developing myself, although in most cases I do not end up writing too much code myself anymore. I do, however, see the full code base and um, be involved in all the like architectural decisions and stuff like that in the project that I'm working. Um, Being an outsourcing company, I'm sometimes involved in multiple projects at the same time. Sometimes I'm only in one project. Sometimes it's for longer term. Sometimes it's for a shorter term.
yeah.
I never know from the very beginning. I don't really care. I just do my job. But it gave me the opportunity of having a large experience with a variety of technologies and kinds of managements and projects, and this taught me a lot throughout the time. So this is where my experience comes from.
Okay, amazing. First of all, to it's been already an hour, uh, us discussing these pretty interesting things. So, I think this can be it for today. Thank you once again for uh, just having your time here and speaking it. To me, it was super exciting and super interesting to talk to you. And yeah, I wish you all the best and all the like kind of success in your primary job as well as in your side hustling. And we're waiting for more and more amazing content from you. So thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Archil, and of course, thank you very much for our listeners for being here with us. I hope all the best, and of course, join me on social media and YouTube if you want to follow me.